trousers.
Smart.
Go on.
Hold on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Delighted here today now to be with Ged McNamara. Ged is currently involved with preparing the Georgia national rugby team for the World Cup in Japan later on this year. But we're also delighted that Ged has come back for a short break. He's been given a little window of a break in the preparations. And Ged left Thurles in 2015, finishing his Masters in strength and conditioning. Prior to that, Ged has been very active, involved in the whole field of, we won't get into the semantics of the words we could use, but strength and conditioning, athletic development, fitness development, and has spent 3 years now, I think, Ged, in Georgia.
Yeah, going into my third year now, yeah. So yeah, lot going on there, yeah. So I went over there originally as an intern. I was pretty privileged to be over there with Craig White, who was with the British and Irish Lions down in New Zealand and South Africa and Wales further on. So I got to work underneath him for a while. And then I was working underneath another guy called Ryan Gibney, along with Irakli Chonia, who's still there now and helps me out. We lead the program together down in Georgia. So it's been a roller coaster of the last 3 years, where you go over as an intern into a new country that you just need to start understanding the cultures and understanding the values of what they have there that might be different to what's going on over in Ireland, and try and find your path with them. And then from there, then getting myself based and understanding their cultures and getting to be friendly and, you know, get on with the players. I ended up becoming a senior S&C over the last 2 years, and I've had a really good time there and really enjoyed it.
Okay, so just remind me now, what brought you to Georgia?
So it's a funny story. I was over in Ireland, and how many jobs are there in Ireland? There's not that many. You know, there's 4 professional teams, and then there's an international team, and then there's county teams. And what happened was, I had my gym in Ireland with a guy called Stephen Ryan, and we did pretty well for ourselves. And it got to a stage where, what am I going to do? Am I going to go travelling, or am I going to stay doing exactly what I'm doing right now? So I was working with the Clare minors at the time and helping out with the Clare seniors with Joe O'Connor and Kelvin Harold, who do an incredible job. And what I wanted to do was, I probably wanted to just take a break and go travelling for the year. And I wanted to go to hotbeds. I read Daniel Coyle's book, you know, and I wanted to see the talent code, and I wanted to see what are other countries doing that perhaps Ireland's not doing. And so I'd taken the time off. I got onto a few teams and a few places. I wanted to go over to Russia and Soviet and see, are they doing what they say they're doing, or is it the grey area, you know? And then I wanted to go down to Australia and stuff. And then I remember looking online, Setanta had put up an internship for a tier 2 team in World Rugby, but they didn't actually name the team. So I said, you know what, I'll apply for it, and if I get it, I'll go. And luckily for me, I ended up getting the job and ended up getting down to Georgia and working with Craig White and understanding what a high performance unit really looks like from non-Irish eyes, if that makes sense.
Great. So again, much like the area of strength and conditioning, anybody involved in the area of performance science or developing a team, Ireland is a small country.
Yeah.
And there are only so many roles that are professional.
Yeah.
And full-time paid, let's say. Now, while they might be increasing in that, the real opportunities are probably just like that in tier 2, tier 3 nations.
Yeah, absolutely.
How have you enjoyed that experience?
I was just actually discussing it here. It was, you can go to a tier 1 team, or you can go to a really professional setup, and you can just become another cog in the machine. You know, you're just a guy that came in and kept the same systems and processes that were really good and really established by the forebearers before us. Or you can go to countries that haven't been exposed to the high performance unit, or haven't been exposed. And it's twofold. You can go over there and you can start implementing strategies and protocols and systems that they haven't been aware before. But what it does is it actually gives you a really solid philosophy in your own thinkings, because you get to trial stuff out that you wouldn't have tried out over here, because this is how we do it, it's done right. But is it done really right? You know, or can we just tweak a few things here, or can we start looking at some of the left field stuff that other teams are using? But because it mightn't have such a really strong, solid foundation in science, we don't go near it because we're frightened to go near it. So trying some of the works of maybe Franz Bosch and not getting too Franz Bosch-y, you can try some stuff and go, that actually, there's something to that, and I want to try it out myself then. And I want to see, does that work in a team setting? And then you go, actually, no, there's something to this. And that goes into the arsenal of tools that you have now. where perhaps you mightn't be able to get exposed to that kind of creative learning on the job.
There's a culture that exists even within Ireland or England or Wales, even from within region to region.
Yeah.
Munster culture is different than the Leinster culture,
Yeah.
than an Ulster culture, than a Connacht culture, likewise in Wales.
Yeah.
So what was it like for you being embedded in a Munster, I suppose, culture of, well, culture in general,
Yeah.
winding up in Georgia?
Yeah. This could be a long spiel now, but it's interesting. So the Munster values, like not the Munster rugby values, but the Munster values of the province is always like we work hard and we have a laugh. Do you know what I mean? And we do that. And then when you go to Georgia, who's hasn't got the same kind of economic status, and it's really tight communities, and it really highlighted my values as a person. So when I went over there, I got to understand that, right, there's actually a lot of like honesty over here. So if they've got a problem with you, they're going to tell you straight away, which is something I hugely respect as a person. And then there's no disrespect over there, which is kind of good. So there's strong foundations in being honest and being integrity and having a lot of integrity. And then when you try and link that to maybe your profession as a strength and conditioning coach or athletic development coach, whatever term that's in at the moment, you get to understand like what is your absolute philosophy to you as a person, and mine would be, you know, we've all heard the expression for the All Blacks, good people make good All Blacks. Well, I think good people make great coaches. You know, like if you've got a lot about you where you can look at a player and you put his values and his career ahead of yours, and you want to see him develop into, or them develop into what they deserve to be, and you can believe in yourself and, you know, have that nice integrity in those moments where I'm making sure he's prepared as best he possibly can, you're going to go far, I think. So going into such an extreme culture in terms of honesty and integrity, it actually highlighted what I really believed as a coach anyway in the first place, and just allowed me to kind of flourish, you know. Okay,
so Georgia have qualified for the World Cup.
Yeah.
They'd qualified even before the last match that played in the previously finished Six Nations. That must have been a great satisfaction to all concerned.
Yeah, like it was brilliant. Like, we obviously have this about us that we want to be a tier 1 team, you know, and we really want to push to be up into those high calibers, and we want to get as much exposure playing against tier 1 teams as possible. But there's no point talking about it and not actually doing it, you know. So it was good that we put together a strong focus around what we call high performance, and that's not just strength and conditioning. High performance, I think, encapsulates a lot of things. It encapsulates the technical and tactical, and encapsulates the physical demands, and encapsulate the mental preparation as well. And what we wanted to do was bring it all together and make sure that we were putting together a really strong core program that would allow us that when we get our opportunities against tier 2 or against tier 1 teams, that we're ready to take it. And over the last year or the last 3 years since I've been there, that's gone high, you know, like it's gone up the mountain as opposed to stagnated. It's something that we're, with the boss Milton Haig, that we're always trying to push. We're always trying to, are we making the boat go faster is the term that we use in Georgia. So everything we talk about, is it making the boat go faster, or are we doing it just to say that we're ticking a box? And if it's just being ticked, if the box is just being ticked, we let that little side project go then.
Okay, so you might tell us and fill us in about the demographics of Georgia and the rugby playing community and how it's structured. Okay, we've 4 provinces here in Ireland. We've got an excellent school system, etc., and club system. So what is the structure of the rugby playing community like?
So there's a professional league over there called the Didiati Top 10. And what they do is that they're trying to develop that game at the moment. So they're trying to develop the professional side of the game and really try and make it as competitive as any other team or any other league in the world. The problem with it is that there's not schools competitions, so there's not school sports over there. So many kids, rugby might be the first time they play sports, and they mightn't do that until they're 15 or 16, you know. So that's probably the limiting factor to really exposing players to have this big kind of athletic profile, where with the Georgians, they love their wrestling, so, and you can see that in their scrummaging ability. So you get what you emphasize in that determinant. So if you emphasize this really strong isometric fight in wrestling, well, when they go to scrummaging, they've got that already ticked off in the locker. So the goal at the moment is try and move that needle more north and develop not just really strong pack, because it is a point of difference for us and it's an incredible point of difference, but can we expose ourselves to having really agile, holistic players that are well able to play the game whatever way that goes. So if that goes to a very running game, we've got the profile to do that. And if it comes to crash, bang and wallop, well, we're going to have a go with that too.
Okay, so Georgian players are well known, as you say, for that physicality in that area, from their traditional cultural background of grappling, wrestling and that. And they've moved into Europe significantly as well. Many players. I mean, we know some of the well-known players. So how does that, again, they're based in Europe, they're based in clubs around Europe. How do you manage that in terms of the development for, let's say, this particular World Cup?
It's an interesting one, and it comes back to your relationship. It's definitely about relationships. So you've got an S&C, or we've got S&Cs in France and England and stuff. They all think that they're doing the best job that they're doing. And they're right to think that, because everybody wants to feel valued and they want to understand that I'm doing what I think is going to make that program better. So we've got to be aware or cognizant that when we're dealing with them, they're developing the players best for them. And then we are trying to develop the players as best for us. So, and they might be two polar opposites at the time. So the thing that we're trying to do is just get a better understanding of what clubs are doing at their clubs. And then we're trying to highlight what we're doing on our team with our international team. And hoping that somewhere in the middle, we make sure that the training load isn't too spiked or too dropped, or the exposures to what we're trying to do in terms of how we develop our high-speed running metrics, or our max velocities and all that work, and making sure that doesn't inhibit or hinder the player in their development throughout the whole year, so that when they do come to the World Cup camp, that they're as prepared as possible for what's about to come.
Okay, give us, so that we can actually get more of a description. Give us the profile of the structure in which you're operating now.
So we've a really cool structure over there. It's pretty awesome that we've all got a good ownership of the program. So I think that's important, that everybody understands that when you're working in an organization, you've got some bit of ownership over it. Otherwise, people are going to lose faith and they're going to go left. So there's two guys, me and Irakli Chonya, who leads the strength-based program, and then I'll probably focus more on the speed and that kind of conditioning. And then we have a sports scientist then called Ben Essenhigh, who does an amazing work, and he works around the sports science, collecting the GPS, collecting all those morning monitoring, collecting all the metrics that we can action off of. And that's important that we say that, because we don't collect anything that we don't action off of. Now, you might want to collect something for later on that you think you might do, but we have a big philosophy. If we can't action off it now, just leave it there. All right, we'll come back to it. And then we've got two young boys working with us, Lee Malotti, who's doing great work with Ben and on the underage, looking at their GPS. And then we've got a guy, Will Lavis, who's working with our return to plays and doing that kind of rehab coordinator role, which is essential at the moment. So that works really well. And the thing that we're always trying to do is that we're trying to have complete transparency, that we all understand what everyone's doing, but they've got to understand what I need the players for if they're going doing a speed session. What state do I need the players in? All right, we don't want to do a really fast, high-end speed session if the boys are coming in fatigued. So Ben's got to either help them get prepared for it, or we just go, right, we might pull them from that speed block, but they're definitely going into the training session. And similarly to what Tico's doing in the gym, I've got to know, how does my speed sessions affect his strength session that might be coming on later on in the day. So it's a loop. It's not one down or over or left or right. It's a loop of information going around the whole time, which we think works really well. And in that loop, then we've got the medical department. And what we're trying to say is that it's not a medical department and an S&C department. It's actually a performance department. And they might work with the lads at one side of the spectrum, and we work with the lads at the other side of the spectrum. And how do we contribute the information that we can meet in the middle, or we're going to try and keep the medical workload low, while they're trying to keep the players on the field for as long as possible.
I'm going to bring it back to something we discussed earlier, which is I won't say a fad, but it is a practice. We collect lots and lots of metrics in sport now. We've the facility to do that. Technology is allowing us to do that. And technology as a tool has immense potential.
Yeah.
But you mentioned just earlier on there, if you're not going to action out of what you collect, you're not going to use it.
Yeah.
Delve a bit more into that, because I think it's a very interesting topic.
Yeah. I can give a quote there, like, everything you measure doesn't matter, and not everything you measure matters, and we can look at that stuff. So what we try to do is we try to understand the game. What are the big rocks in the game? So from total distance, non-walking distance, high speed running, and maybe max velocity exposures. Okay, and then we've got to understand that GPS mightn't always be the most reliable piece of equipment either at the same time. So we can look at step balances, and we can look at contacts, and we can look at all that. But what do I do with a step balance when someone says the step balance is off? I can't tell you that. I don't know. Do I go and start doing some pelvis work in the gym or stuff? I don't know. Or can we look at and say, right, we've got certain areas of the game that when we do 4-minute blocks, or worst case scenarios is what we term them. If we do a 4-minute block, what does that look like from a high speed runner point of view, a meters per minute point of view, and a max velocity point of view, and an accelerations and decelerations point of view? And then we'll see, right, can we expose the boys to this in training? So, right, can we design drills, or do we have to go straight line running, or do we have to do a multitude of different kind of physiological demands in those drills? And then, right, we can do that for one. How does it look when we do it a couple of times and we have limited rest periods in between, or we have optimal rest periods in between? What's going to make it better? So then we might go, right, well, when we did the first 4-minute block, accelerations and decelerations were huge. But when we did let's say we did 4 blocks of these and we got to the 4th one, accelerations and decelerations went down to 0. And straight away that's telling us that players aren't getting as involved as what they want, or they're just going through the motions for the sake of going through the motions. Yeah. And we know that when we look at the game, it's all about the ability to try and make something happen. And I've had chats with some of the lads in the RFU about, at least if they're doing acceleration, they're trying to make something happen. They're trying to get involved. And that's the way we've brought our training sessions now. Just trying to understand the workload that's going on within the game and acting off that workload. But then what we got to do is make sure that when we do the morning monitoring, that it's facilitating the training session, not inhibiting the training session. So you can collect loads and loads of data points, and the more you collect, the more it's going to tell you that something's wrong, or something's off. So you can collect buckets, loads of stuff, and it's saying, well, Stephen's not ready to play today. And it's like, but he's jumping around the place, like he's doing backflips. Yeah, but his heart rate variability is down. But he's high-fiving everybody I know. He shouldn't. And it's just, and that's what we call it, the conversation starter. The morning monitoring is just a conversation starter, unless it's hugely down or hugely flagged. It's just, right, how do we get that player ready to be optimal come that training session, whether it's a couple of hours or whether it's in the afternoon?
Okay, so pragmatism rules.
Yeah.
And if you can't make sense of it, it's probably not as useful as it says on the tin.
Yeah.
What would be your most used and useful item of technology within your area of work now?
Most used. That's a good question, actually. Yeah, it's not technology. It's what it is. It's probably a cup of tea, and sitting down in the morning and just someone's not. We all see it when someone's just not at their level, and you just have a conversation and you find out a little thing, and you get that information back. It's people is probably the best technology in the world. Having good people that understand conversations and where we bring the conversation to is going to tell you a lot more than any GPS, any heart rate variability, any heart rate responses. You can get buckets of it, but I think technology needs to it should aid the program. It shouldn't dictate the program, and that's what I'm worried about. That with all the stuff that's coming in and all the different stuff that's coming in, are we being led or are we leading?
Very good. I like that. That links in with what my good pal, the great AK, who was physio to most of the previous generation of rugby players in Ireland. In our early pre-season camps way back in the 90s with Leinster, his favourite way of engaging and operating wasn't just his physiotherapy or his skills, it was the civilised cup of tea that he would have with the players and the managers and the staff, so that everybody would have their say about what was going on. So obviously, while technology has exponentially changed and increased in its use. You're still using the great AK's piece of technology, a civilized cup of tea.
Yeah, exactly. Or
excellent.
I think that's the way forward. Like we might have our foam rollers out in the morning, and we do all our monitoring, and then we go down and you hear more about what's going on in that intimate setting of maybe there's 3 or 4 lads in there than anything's ever going to tell you. You know, and what the benefit of technology is understanding what's actually happening. You know, what's going on. Like the GPS will tell you what's going on in the field of sport. It's still not going to give you that really, and I don't care what anyone says to me, that really reliable contact collisions, but it's going to tell you somewhat the running demands. Similar with velocity-based training, it's going to tell you the bar speed's moving fast or it's moving slow. I can do that. You know, like you can eyeball it, but it's going to give you just really good data that you can go, right, well, we need you to go up here, okay? If you don't have it, you're still going to see it, you know, and the force platforms and the stuff that we have, that's going to aid where the program should go. Like it's just going to move the needle. You know, it's like a compass. It's going to tell you, right, maybe we should go this way, maybe we should go that way. And that's all the program should ever be, is just about leading.
Do you think, therefore, and it's a question I like to put to people, we have the stats now that tell us that, particularly in let's say professional football, the soccer, but it's also in other team sports as well. And it's while they're not the same figures, the trend is the same. We've now more hamstring strain injuries in team sport than ever before, and increasing linearly, 4%, 4% year on year, and the duration of recovery from hamstring strain to return to play, the duration is increasing as well by a similar factor of 4%. Why do you think that is, given all our expertise, given all the support staff, given everything that we have? And following on our simple conversation on technology. Yeah,
we're being led, aren't we? So we're being led with the technology at the moment, right? If you get that guy's Nordics, you know, the Norboard, if you get that guy's hamstrings rock solid, he's going to be ready to go, robust. I think they call it bulletproof, right? And then he goes out into the field and 2 weeks later he's done the same injury again. And you're like, no, how did that happen? But we got the information. So we can get all the information, or we can actually have a good, strong conversation with the whole, all the stakeholders within that player. And that's what we've done in Georgia. And we're not going to say we didn't pick up any hamstring injuries. We've had soft tissue injuries. And we had a really strong conversations then when we brought all the stakeholders into the player, into a room, and we go, right, where are we taking the program? What is the physio seeing? What's the SNC seeing? And what's the data analyst seeing? Or the sports scientist seeing? And they're seeing all these different things. And then we have a strong conversation where we're going to decide what's best for that athlete at that time. Because everyone thinks that, get his hamstrings, get the Nordics really strong and he's rock. Yeah, but what if he's really fast twitch and he does stuff that other people can't do? So he puts himself down to get a ball that's so outstretched that no one else will go for it, but our player goes for it. So it's understanding that we need to all come together, get all the stakeholders in the room and make sure that we're getting the best program for that individual athlete and not be led by what the metrics are telling us to do. It's got to be what's best for him.
Okay, so can I take it, or would it be true to say that what you're actually doing is you're still going to use technology, but what you're going to do is make sure that the human face-to-face interaction is the overall umbrella which decides and guides what you do.
Exactly.
While technology is contributing to that situation.
Absolutely, yeah. Because technology is a tool. It's and I think we've gone so far now that it's like whatever's easiest, whatever's going to give you a metric straight away that you can do something off of. That's what we run to straight away, rather than having a strong or a hard conversation with the support staff or the player and letting that lead, and then using the technology to aid it. That's the way we should be going.
Very good. Now, Ged, we could keep talking all day on this, and we could keep going in depth and in detail. But I want to just, before we finish up, come back out. And are you enjoying what you're doing in Georgia?
Love it. Love it. Yeah, love it. It's amazing. Yeah.
You're going ahead into the World Cup, which is September, October. Future plans after that?
I'd hope to stay on with Georgia after it, and you know, we all love our projects, don't we? And I think I've still a little bit left to do with that project that I want to fix. But as long as I'm involved in team sports or in general, I'll be happy. You know, it's brilliant.
and in particular for that in Georgia, there'll probably be more clarity on the recent proposals regarding the World Rugby Leagues and such.
Yeah.
And Georgia's in an interesting position there because ranked above USA and Italy in the world currently.
Yeah, ranked above Italy. Yeah, so it puts us in the frame to be spoken about at least, and we feel that with this way our team is structured and the performance that we're having at the moment, that we'll be there to put ourselves into that promotion conversation if the promotion and relegations are allowed to happen.
Okay, so lots of interesting things, not just the World Cup coming up. And in your group in the World Cup, just run through them for me.
Yeah, so we've a strong, nice World Cup. We've got Wales first, followed by Uruguay, Fiji and Australia. So
very good.
Yeah, we're trying to fly underneath the radar there, and hopefully we can have a few surprises along the way.
Okay, so the expectation is is obviously you're preparing well.
Yeah.
But you're in an interesting group as well.
Yeah. I think everyone thinks we can beat each other, so yeah.
Very good.
How good is that?
Well, listen, Ged, we could, as I say, we could keep going. Thank you so much for coming in and chatting to us. You're back. You're going back now.
Yeah.
And it's probably now countdown time, is it?
We have the little calendar up in the room where the days get knocked down every day, and we're excited. Yeah. So.
Well, listen, whatever you're doing, and over in Japan, and afterwards, the very best of luck, Ged. It's great talking.
Absolute pleasure. Yeah, really appreciate it. Thank you.